Welcome to Revenge Report. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Let's dive in. They spelled his name wrong on the plaque. That was the first thing I noticed. Right there in the middle of the glossy corporate wall, Joshua M. Callan instead of Josh T. Callan. They had one job. I stood stiff in a room full of black suits and coffee breath, surrounded by corporate banners and high-gloss posters about workplace safety and global mission values. There was no casket, no ashes, just a slideshow looping Josh's smiling face over a sterile instrumental track. My 12-year-old daughter, Rachel, sat beside me, jaw locked, eyes dry. She hadn't cried since the call. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. The CEO was mid-speech, something robotic about honoring those we lost in the field, when I stepped forward with the wreath. It was small, real lilies, the only real thing in the room. "Rebecca," my father said sharply behind me. His voice cut through the silence louder than the mic. I stopped walking. "You need to let him go now," he said, not a whisper, not even close. "This isn't healthy." "You've mourned enough," gasps, murmurs. My face burned. I didn't answer him. I walked straight to the plaque and knelt down to place the wreath. That's when I heard it, the sound of wheels squeaking across the marble floor. Heads turned. A woman was being pushed in. A girl, really. Couldn't have been older than 20. Hospital gown under a coat. Left arm bandaged, face swollen, hair matted. She looked like she'd crawled out of hell. Everyone stared. She tried to speak, coughed hard, then forced it out. "Josh Callan saved my life." The room froze. "What the hell is this?" someone whispered. She blinked hard and looked right at me. "He's not dead. He's alive. He pulled me out. He gave me this." She held out a company badge. My legs locked. It was scratched, scorched around the edges, but the photo was unmistakable. Josh, his ID number, his name, spelled right. "Security," my father barked, stepping forward. "This is a mistake." "She's confused." The girl shook her head slowly. "No. He told me to find you." I reached out and took the badge from her trembling hand. I didn't speak. I didn't move. I just stood there, badge in my fist, while the entire room exploded into chaos behind me. The second the lounge door shut behind me, it was like stepping into a trap. Low lights, leather chairs, frosted glass. My father stood near the minibar, drink already in hand like he hadn't just tried to publicly humiliate me. Two other board members flanked him, Janice Holloway and Brent Ellis. I'd known them since college internships. They wouldn't even meet my eyes. Rachel sat on the couch, shoulders curled in tight. She looked up at me when I walked in. Her eyes were sharp, but scared. My father didn't waste time. "That girl is traumatized." "Drugged, maybe. She shouldn't have been let in. She walked. She bled. She spoke," I snapped. And she handed me Josh's badge. Not some replica. The real one. ID burn matched, seal intact. Brent shifted. "These IDs go missing in the field all the time. Maybe it was Josh's. Doesn't mean he's alive." "She knew things," I said, stepping forward. "She called me by name before anyone introduced me." "She knew Josh had a wrist scar from the crate accident in Marseille. She said he told her to find me." "You want to explain that away too?" Janice tried her soft voice. "Sometimes trauma victims absorb details from others." "She could have been briefed." "By who?" "My dead husband," my father cut in. "You're not thinking clearly." "No, you're not," I said. "You all want to bury this because if he is alive, someone in this room is complicit in covering up a fake death." Rachel's voice cracked through the room. "Why would he fake it?" I looked at her. She was staring at me, trying to piece it together like a math problem with a missing variable. I crouched beside her. "He wouldn't," I said. "He wouldn't leave you." Brent coughed. "Let's not confuse the child." "She's not confused," I barked. "She's watching this clearer than any of you." My father slammed his glass on the table. "Enough." "This stops now," I stood. "No, you stop. What are you so afraid of, huh? That Josh might walk back in and start asking the same questions I'm about to?" His mouth twisted. "You think I'm scared of Josh?" "I buried that boy. I stood over your grief, your daughter's grief. This obsession?" "You're scared of exposure," I said, low and sharp. "Not grief, not pain, truth." The room went still. He looked at Janice. "We'll handle this internally." No, I said, you won't. I walked to the lounge's desk, grabbed a notepad, and started writing. What are you doing? My father asked. I'm submitting for transfer, I said without looking up. I want out of executive planning. Effective immediately. You're abandoning your role in the middle of a crisis? Janice asked. No, I'm repositioning. Logistics audit, back-end compliance. The quiet corner of the building where no one pays attention, Brent scoffed. That's a demotion. Officially, I said, tearing off the paper. Unofficially, I call it freedom. I handed the paper to Janice. She hesitated, then took it. You're acting reckless, my father muttered. No, I said. I'm acting like someone who remembers what Josh stood for. Rachel stood next to me, chin high. I looked my father in the eye. You want me to move on? Watch me. I didn't unpack my new office, just shoved my purse under the desk, rolled up my sleeves, and got to work. No windows, no assistant, no distractions. Just the buzz of overhead lights and rows of old shipping data no one ever looked at unless there was a lawsuit. Perfect. I pulled Josh's last assignment, Project Centridge, out of cold storage. Logistics manifest, transport routes, timestamps, digital logs. On paper, it looked clean, efficient. Final delivery marked complete 5 hours before the equipment malfunction that supposedly killed him, but the numbers didn't sit right. I ran the shipping timestamps through our asset verification portal. The lead transport, Route 37, showed arrival at 14:09 local time, but satellite logs had it entering the compound at 14:21. That 11-minute gap might have meant nothing in another industry, but not ours. Not when tracking's tied to temperature control, safety thresholds, live cargo. I dug deeper. The satellite logs were clean, too clean, scrubbed down to just GPS points. No thermal overlays, no relay ID timestamps, just hard coordinates. So I cross-checked internal comms between the transport coordinator and the field unit Josh was assigned to. There was a message logged 12 minutes after the incident Josh supposedly died in, and it was tagged to his ID. I zoomed in. It wasn't a copy-paste error. The metadata was intact. Josh's ID pinged after he was pronounced dead. I sat back in my chair and stared at the screen. My first instinct was to go to the digital archives. That's where every field death report was supposed to live. PDFs, scans, chain of custody forms. I found the file, 52 pages. I clicked through fast. Page 51 jumped straight to 53. I clicked again. Same thing. There wasn't a missing page icon. There wasn't even a blank. Just nothing. Like 52 had never existed. I grabbed the desk phone and called internal compliance. A man picked up. Carlton, Special Records? This is Rebecca Callan, Audit Division. I need the complete Project Centridge incident file, internal accident report. I'm missing page 52. Silence. Then, that file's been sealed. Why? I'm authorized under audit protocol. The file's been sealed, he repeated. Request denied. Carlton? Click. He hung up. I sat there holding the phone like it might still talk to me. Then I slammed it down hard enough the handset cracked at the hinge. Something was being buried. This wasn't just about a wrong timestamp or a corrupted page. This was deliberate, sanitized. Josh's ID pinged 12 minutes after he supposedly died, and no one wanted me to see what happened in between. I didn't sleep that night. My brain wouldn't shut up. That missing page, the badge, the girl, the sealed file, all of it swirled around the same name, Josh. And the only man who ever had the pull to bury this deep inside the company was the same one who sat across from me at Sunday dinners, my father. I went back to the shipping logs, dug in, line by line. I wasn't looking for Josh anymore. I was looking for the rot around him. That's when I found it. 3 days after Josh's incident, there was a shipment log through a shell vendor, Eternum Global Services. I'd never heard of it. Not listed in our official vendor matrix. But it cleared full-tier security and moved through a level 7 gate. High clearance only. The manifest listed containment materials, temperature sensitive, and restraint-grade composite alloy. That wasn't recovery gear. That was control gear. I back-channeled the vendor's registration. Eternum wasn't in Delaware or Singapore. It was listed in Utah, tied to a P.O. box and a third-party agent out of Salt Lake. But the payment trail? That went to an investment firm in Connecticut, owned by a trust. I drilled into the trust. And there it was, Franklin E. Brandt, my father's name. Not just listed, signed. He owned the shell. I leaned back and stared at the screen like it had slapped me. This wasn't corporate. This was him. His signature, his money, his fingerprints on the same supply chain that sent equipment meant to restrain whatever was still moving after Josh's site went dark. I kept going. I ran Eternum's name against customs watch lists, flagged vendors, NGO leaks. I didn't expect hits. I got six overseas subsidiaries tied to black site complaints, forced labor, unregistered detainees, off-books experimentation, all buried under infrastructure development or hazardous environment studies. 3 were in East Africa, 1 in the Balkans, 2 near the old Indonesian ports. We used to ship telecom towers to those sites. I remembered helping write the press release. I printed everything, spread the pages across my desk like a puzzle. Shipment codes, trust documents, employee lists, satellite images, and in the middle, I dropped Josh's badge. This wasn't just about an accident. It wasn't just some failed project. It was a cover-up, and my father, my own blood, had built it. I remembered being 13 and watching him win an award for ethics in business. He smiled down from that stage like he'd invented the word integrity. I pulled out the plaque he'd given me the day I made VP. Earn trust. Keep truth. His voice echoed in my head like a joke. My hands were shaking, not from fear, rage. This wasn't just company betrayal. This was personal. He chose silence. He chose shadow ops. He chose his reputation over his daughter's husband, over Rachel's father. I grabbed the badge and shoved it into my desk drawer. I knew what this meant. If he'd gone this far to hide it, then Josh hadn't just seen something he shouldn't. He was part of it. Or worse, he tried to stop it. And that made him disposable. But not forgotten. Not to me. I drove home with the pages stuffed in my bag, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. Rachel was at a sleepover. I had the night alone, and I knew exactly what I needed to do. The Field tablet. It had been sitting in a locked firebox under my bed since the day they shipped Josh's personal effects back to me. They said it had been recovered from the blast zone, damaged but secure. I'd never opened it. Couldn't. Not until now. I pulled it out, still wrapped in the plastic sleeve. The casing was scratched to hell, but the power light came on. A good sign. I plugged it in and booted the system. A security key flashed across the screen. Enter Level 6 clearance. Josh had worked on classified site support ops, so the encryption was deep. He'd taught me the trick to bypass internal admin layers when we were still dating. Backdoor through archived maintenance logs. I ran it, guessed the year, guessed the site. Third try, I was in. The dashboard loaded. Internal reports, comm logs, images. But one folder caught my eye. Gray text, almost invisible. J redacted. I clicked it. Password protected. I sat there staring at the prompt, chewing the inside of my cheek until it hit me. I typed in Rachel's birthday. The screen blinked, then opened. Inside was one file, no label, just a timestamp. I clicked it. Josh's face filled the screen. Sunken cheeks, dark circles, bruises under both eyes. His voice was raw like he hadn't spoken in days. "If you're seeing this," he said, "then they didn't kill me." Not yet, I froze. He looked straight at the camera. "This company, it's not what we thought. They're using the logistics chain, our logistics chain, to move people. Not just workers, prisoners, test subjects. Anyone who pushes back gets disappeared." He coughed, winced, wiped blood from his lip. I found an underground corridor near the Ghana terminal. Looked like a storage wing. But there were beds, cameras, restraint hooks, and a generator marked Sustainment Operations. Class B. That's not supply language. That's detainment. The camera shook. I could tell he was holding it with one hand. I tried to pull the site log. It was scrubbed mid-transfer. Someone back home saw me digging. I got a message. Terminate field presence immediately. He leaned closer. His eyes were glassy but locked in. I traced the supply trail. It runs through shell vendors, clean names, safe addresses, but all of them route through one holding company. He paused, swallowed hard. Franklin Brandt. Your father. I didn't breathe. Rebecca, I don't know if he knows the whole scope or if they're using him, but his name's on too much. The Ghana shipments, the safety equipment with no serial numbers, the ghost entries in the dispatch logs. He looked away, like something behind the screen pulled his focus, then back. There's one weak point. Vendor authentication. Every shell has to register through the same two auditors. One's tied to the Port of Wilmington, the other's based in New York, someone we worked with before. You can trace it if you move quiet. He shifted the tablet, and the image pixelated. If you're watching this, don't let them erase me. Don't stop. Then the screen went black. I sat in silence, hands curled into fists on my lap. He was alive when he recorded that. He knew he was being hunted, and still he left breadcrumbs. For me, not for the company, not even for justice. For me. My hands moved on instinct. I copied the file to a private drive, locked it in my bag, and disconnected the tablet. I wasn't chasing ghosts anymore. I was chasing him. I didn't sleep. Again. By morning, I had one goal. Find the girl from the memorial. No one ever said her name that day, but I remembered her face. Bloodied, bandaged, eyes like she'd stared into something no one should ever see. I pulled the visitor logs from security archives. Most were scrubbed, standard for a memorial, but one name was manually entered, shaky handwriting, no return ID. Maria Jensen. I started with the hospital. She wasn't there. The address listed didn't exist. She'd vanished. So I called a guy I knew from back in ops, Randall, used to work overseas trauma recovery. He owed me a favor. You didn't hear it from me, he said, but she's being sheltered through a contractor. Name she's using is Julie Green. I found her in a private rehab home an hour north. No cameras, gated entry, no staff names on the website. I didn't wait for an invite. I showed up with my badge and a fire under my ribs. Maria was in a second-floor room, sitting in a wheelchair by the window, with a blanket wrapped around her legs. When I walked in, she flinched, eyes wide, breath short, but she didn't look away. "You're Rebecca," she said. I nodded. "And you're not Julie." "Not anymore," she said. I pulled a chair close. "Tell me what happened." She looked around like the walls could hear. "They left us underground. Said it was temporary, equipment retrieval, but the walls caved in. 2 people got crushed. We thought we were done." Her voice shook, but she pushed through it. "Then Josh showed up. I don't know how. He just appeared through a service corridor, pulled me out with one arm. He was limping bad, bleeding from his head." I swallowed. "Did he say anything?" Maria nodded slowly, reached into her robe pocket and pulled out a torn piece of canvas, dirty, frayed, creased. One word scrawled across it. Shelter point. My stomach dropped. That wasn't just a name, it was training code. We used it in security briefings, meant evac only if the threat is internal. "He gave me that," she said, handing it to me. "Said if anything happened to him, find you. Said you'd know what to do." I stared at the word. My hands felt cold. Maria leaned in. "They've moved me 3 times. Always at night. I don't know who's paying, but someone inside knows you're still digging." "Why tell me now?" I asked. "Because he trusted you." She reached behind her wheelchair cushion and pulled out a folded square of paper, half a map. The edge was burnt. "This was with the canvas," she said. "He told me to find you. That you'd finish what he started." I took it from her and looked at the faded lines. It wasn't just a location. It was a path. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "but if you don't move fast, they'll come for you too." I stood, heart pounding. "They already have," I said. By the time I left the rehab home, my hands were sweating through the map. I didn't head back to the office. I didn't go home. I drove 3 hours west to an old service lot outside Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Half auto shop, half digital fortress run by the only person I trusted with what I had, Malik Wright. He used to run network security for the company back in the day, until he found out a high-ranking exec was installing hidden surveillance nodes in worker camps. He blew the whistle, vanished, and turned a garage into a private firewall kingdom. No one could touch him now. When I pulled up, he was under a rusted-out Chevy truck, boots sticking out. "Rebecca Callan," he said without looking, voice muffled by steel. "You only show up when someone's either dead or about to be." "Good. Then I'm on brand," I said, stepping over oil stains. He rolled out and stood, taller than I remembered, with more gray in his beard, still sharp as hell. I handed him the map and the drive with Josh's video. He watched it in silence, eyes locked to the screen. When it ended, he leaned back in his chair and let out a long breath. "Damn. Yeah. All right. Let's go ghost hunting." We went into the back, a bunker lined with monitors, processors stacked floor to ceiling, and a rack of energy drinks that could fuel a war. Malik hooked up the drive and started running strings. Project Shelter Point, I said. He said it's a corridor. Underground, used for moving people. Malik typed fast, keys clacking. Name doesn't exist in the corporate logs, but that doesn't mean it's not real. You hide something big, you bury it in logistics. He opened 3 windows. Let's pull the route data first. 10 minutes later, he had it. Buried inside an old warehouse clearance request flagged for human security asset transfer. It was a dummy request filed under a decommissioned facility in Ghana. Sites listed as shut down 4 years ago, Malik said. But look. He zoomed in, showed me the activity pulses, signal pings, access logs, heat trails. Still active. Someone's in and out every 3 days. Can you trace the shipments? He pulled up a manifest batch labeled with dummy part numbers. These routes all redirect through a private channel, encrypted, no bill of lading, no customs clearances. But the times match. Same intervals, same blind spots I watched as he overlaid the data with my father's shipping logs. The result hit like a fist. Every blind shipment had a matching outbound record under a holding company my father controlled. He's involved, I said, voice flat. Not just involved, Malik replied. He's the primary node. Every dirty route filters through his supply chain. No way that's accidental. My throat went dry. How long has this been happening? At least 7 years. But it escalated around the time Josh went dark. Malik clicked something, and a satellite image appeared. Gray buildings in a jungle clearing, one with a rusted roof and faint solar panel arrays. This is the site. You want to find Josh? This is your last breadcrumb. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. You said this was bigger than the company. It is, Malik leaned in. I found diplomatic shields tied to the shipments. This stuff's greased by foreign service offices. Some of it's buried in infrastructure aid budgets. You go after this, you're not just burning your career. I nodded. I'm already on fire. Malik looked at me, serious now. Then finish it. I copied the data, zipped it into a secure drive, and slipped it into my coat. This site, I said. You sure it's active? If he's alive, that's where they're keeping him. I stood, heart already moving faster than my feet. Then that's where I'm going. I didn't head for Ghana yet, not without one last name on my list. Nathan Griggs. He'd been a junior data specialist when I was in strategy, one of my father's hand-picked compliance staffers. Quiet, sharp, paranoid as hell. He vanished right after Josh's death was filed. Said it was burnout, left a week before internal records mysteriously reorganized. I found him working in a tech co-op in Baltimore. Different name on the door. Same twitchy eyes when he saw me walk in. You got 30 seconds, he said, already turning back toward the back room. I followed him anyway. This isn't a company check. This is personal. He spun around fast. That's worse. I don't talk about that job. Not to anyone. I held up the map. Josh came to you, didn't he? Before he disappeared, Nathan stared like he'd seen a ghost. Don't lie, I said. You were logging comm traffic back then. You saw something. I need it. He glanced at the open doorway, then pulled me inside and shut it. Tight. Yeah, he muttered. He came to me. Late. Looked like he hadn't slept in days. Told me he found ghost entries. Shipment logs that never went through customs, no port scans, no serial validation. But they were real, human cargo? He didn't answer. He didn't have to. He said someone above his clearance was scrubbing the audit trail. Data was getting rerouted before it even hit our Tier 1 servers. I took a breath. Did he leave anything with you? Nathan walked to a wall safe and keyed in a code. Pulled out a small black USB. I copied everything I could. Contracts, log merges, 2 comm chains with vendors that don't exist on any registry. And he hesitated. And what? A voice file. He handed me the drive like it was radioactive. Play it. Nathan hooked it to his laptop. A second later, Josh's voice filled the room. If this reaches you, I'm either dead or close to it. I didn't quit. They made me disappear. And whoever did it, they're sitting in boardrooms today acting like they don't know what's happening. But they know. And they'll kill to keep it buried. My chest felt like it was made of glass. Nathan paused the audio. There's more, he said, softer now. He mentioned a corridor under the Ghana site, said it was active, said he'd seen it firsthand. People chained in the dark, locked in containers labeled maintenance payload. I swallowed hard. And you didn't say anything? I was scared, he said. Your father had eyes everywhere. I didn't know who to trust. I shoved the drive into my bag. You trust me now? I'm still not sure, he said. But if you're here, then I guess you're doing what he asked. I am. He stepped aside and opened the door. You take this public, he said. You'll burn everything. Your name, your job, your family. I know. Nathan held my gaze. Good. I walked out with the drive in my hand and every truth I needed packed in one USB. This wasn't just about saving Josh anymore. It was about taking them all down. I walked straight into the federal building with the USB in my pocket and fire in my gut. No lawyers, no press, just me, a printed backup binder, and copies delivered to the Business Crimes Unit and the Department of Labor. The guy at the front desk asked if I wanted to speak to someone from corporate outreach. I said no. I was there to report a crime. 48 hours later, I was suspended without pay from the company. No explanation, just a cold, typed letter from legal and a call from HR. You violated confidentiality, they said. I blew the lid off human trafficking, I shot back. Click. That afternoon, my father showed up at my house. He didn't knock, just opened the door like he still had the right. You think this is justice, he said, voice low and lethal. You're handing ammunition to people who want to tear this company apart. I stood in the kitchen, hands planted on the counter. You lied. You funded the shells. You knew where the shipments went. He stepped closer. You're sabotaging your own family. I laughed, sharp, bitter. No, you did that when you chose profit over people. He narrowed his eyes. You have no idea who you're up against. I held up the USB. Neither do they. That was the last thing I said to him. 3 days later, I walked into a closed-door federal inquiry in D.C. No cameras, no leaks, just a panel of grim-faced officials and one long table under dead fluorescent lights. I placed the binder on the desk and slid the drive across. Inside that drive was everything. The logs Malik helped trace, Nathan's file copies, Josh's voice message, the partial map Maria gave me, the internal contracts, the vendor signatures, all of it. The woman in the middle of the panel, Agent Wilkes, opened the binder. This says you've linked a domestic logistics conglomerate to a series of illegal detainment sites in multiple countries. Yes. Your evidence includes falsified shipment logs? Yes. And the cover-up of an employee, your husband, listed as deceased? I nodded once. He's not dead. Wilkes opened the file on her tablet. The room went still. I see audio testimony from the victim himself, she said, and signed confirmations from a witness and a former employee. Maria Jensen, I said. She's in protection now. And Nathan Griggs. He'll testify a man 2 seats down tapped on his screen. I'm looking at the transport chain. These holding companies are registered to Franklin E. Brandt. I looked right at him. My father. That landed hard. The room shifted. Nobody looked casual anymore. Wilkes tapped her pen against the desk. Rebecca, based on the strength of this submission, we are reclassifying your husband's status immediately. She read the new designation out loud, voice steady. Joshua T. Callan, status changed from deceased to status unknown. Witness in active human trafficking case. The air sucked out of the room. My breath hitched, but I kept my face straight. I wasn't here to cry. Then I saw him, my father, sitting against the wall in the back corner, behind a pane of one-way glass. He didn't blink, didn't move, but his eyes were locked on mine. He didn't see a daughter anymore. He saw a threat, and he knew this wasn't going away. The call came in at 4:17 a.m. My phone lit up on the nightstand, and for a second, I couldn't move. I just stared at the screen. Unknown number. Ghana country code. I answered on the third ring. This is Rebecca. A woman's voice, soft but direct. Miss Callan, I'm with the Global Relief Network. Your husband was recovered during a raid on a remote containment facility 2 days ago. He's alive. I didn't hear the rest. Just the blood rushing through my ears and the sound of my knees hitting the floor. I landed in Geneva 36 hours later. They moved him to a protected medical center under UN watch. Armed guards at the door, no press, no statements. Just quiet. Josh was in a private room with white walls and a single chair beside the bed. He was sitting up when I walked in. Thinner, paler, his beard grown out, wrists still bandaged. But his eyes met mine the second I stepped in. He smiled, barely, but it was real. I told you I'd come back, he said. I reached him in 3 steps. Didn't cry, didn't speak. I just wrapped my arms around him and felt the weight I'd carried for months start to fall off piece by piece. They didn't want me dead, he said, voice low and raw. They wanted me forgotten. I pulled back and looked him in the face. They failed. He nodded slowly. Is it happening? The inquiry? It's already started, I said. Your name's been changed in the official record. The companies are under federal review. My father's been indicted. His expression didn't change, but I felt something shift in the room. A tension released. You did it, he said. No, we did a week later. They invited us to a ceremony, public thanks, spotlight, speeches. We didn't go. We sat on a porch just outside the rehab center, 2 plastic chairs and a worn-out blanket. The sun dipped low over the pines. Josh sipped tea from a paper cup. I held his hand. They tried to erase you, I said. He looked straight ahead. But you remembered. I squeezed his hand. You brought me back, he said, and for the first time in months, I let myself believe he was home.